Hello and welcome to Eye on Africa. I'm Clarisse Fortuné. Our top stories today. South Africa still relishing its victory after Saturday's big win at the Rugby World Cup. President Ramaphosa has just declared December 15th a public holiday and said that the sport could unite a country. What about economic returns? Ghana getting ready to face terrorist insurgency in West Africa. The country has just received more than 100 armored vehicles from the European Union. Kenya is getting ready for a royal visit. King Charles III is making his first visit as a monarch in a shadow of Britain's colonial past. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has just declared December 15th a public holiday in celebration of the rugby team victory at the World Cup last Saturday. The Springboks beat New Zealand 12-11 in a gripping final for a record fourth title. Captain Siya Kolisi was asked what that win meant to South Africa.
We've just been living the moment and celebrating and just enjoying each other's companies. You know, I think as soon as we get home and we see what it means to the people back home, I think then we'll start thinking, about what we can do going forward. Yeah, for me, thank you. Yeah, honestly, like we said from the beginning, it's not about us. This is not about us. It's not about our own achievement. It's about what the country needs at this point of time, and that's been the driving force for us as a team.
I think, especially all the South Africans, all our fans back home, they wanted this victory. They expected this victory, and I'm just so glad we could give it to them. The videos and the support messages they've been sending in, it's been incredible, and to just make them happy for winning and bringing the cup home is for us. It means so much to us and just lifts our spirits, and I think this just lifts the whole spirit of all South Africans.
And President Cyril Ramaphosa also said that the win confirmed the power of sport to unite and build a nation. Some also think that sport could be a powerful factor for economic development. So what can sport do to boost Africa's economy? To answer is Will Biakop from the African Sports and Creative Institute. He's here in Paris for a forum from the OECD for about Africa.
Thanks for having me.
So what can do sport for business?
Well, sports can do a lot. Sports overall is 4 to 5% of the world GDP, so that's pretty big. Most of that wealth sits in Europe and in North America. What about Africa? Well, Africa has been providing the world for so many years with unbelievable talent. But from a GDP perspective, it's only 0.5% of Africa. So what it means is that today, with this victory, obviously, it's another great momentum that is heading to the already great investment coming up into Africa from the world of sports. We have investment in infrastructure, we have investment in merchandising, in gaming, in media. So the momentum right now in Africa for sports is just amazing.
So, for example, can you quantify the benefits for example, South Africa or others, for example, who have hosted big sports events like Cameroon for African Cup or other nations?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, obviously we're very fresh off the World Cup. But first of all, congratulations to South Africa. 4 times winners, back-to-back, first time ever an African team does that. So they keep on raising the African flag very high. In terms of money, we're looking at 6 million roughly. 6 million is what the winner of the World Cup got. I think 3.5 is what the runner-up got as well. So obviously pretty substantial. If we compare it to what Egypt got during the organization of the AFCON, it was 83 million. And we're looking forward for numbers for Morocco, which is going to obviously host AFCON men's and women, but also the FIFA World Cup in 2030. They're announcing major numbers from a revenue standpoint, not only directly to sports, but all the segment around sports, tourism, hospitality, merchandising, etc., etc.
But do you think that governments are understanding the prospect of sport? Because we can say there's a lack of infrastructures, for example. Are they ready to invest?
Yeah, I think, look, it's work in progress. I think right now what we see is that more and more people understand the game, but the game needs to be explained. We need more data. We need more conferences. We need more summit. And actually, OECD is hosting tomorrow the African Forum, which is dedicated to investment. And what we're going to see at the OECD International Forum on Africa, we're going to see 3 major panel discussions, talking about two main things. First of all, we're going to revisit the financial system. Today, as you know, there is all around the World Economic Forum, the World Bank, IMF are rethinking about the financial system to make it more equitable, make sure that investment is more accessible to African in a fair way. So that's number one. Number two, we're going to look at sources of investment and sources of growth. Traditional extractive industries doesn't make it no more for Africa. We need to look at innovative ways to generate revenue. We have 16 million people coming into the market every year, 16 million people coming into the job market every year in Africa. We need to find innovative ways to do so. Sports is one of them, entertainment is and another one. The media and entertainment business is a $2.3 trillion business worldwide. And I believe Africa can play its part in there.
You were mentioning merchandising earlier, but where, for example, that specific attribute for merchandising, where the revenue actually going to? Because some of the big events are actually organized by big federation, like for example, the Federation of Football, like FIFA. So how can these revenues can go to the people on the ground and not to the big federations?
Well, the big federations like FIFA have their local representation. In this case, for example, it's the CAF, right? Where the president is Patrice Motsepe. So CAF has just launched the Africa Football League, a multi-million-dollar league that is bringing revenue to the continent, to the clubs. The clubs in Egypt, Al Ahly, Mamelodi Sundowns,
so
in
they're
South
investing
Africa.
in new infrastructures, for example, refurnishing stadiums and...
Absolutely, they invest in infrastructure, they invest in all the segment of the value chain, making sure that job is being created throughout. So this is right holders, as you rightfully say, but from a merchandising standpoint, I want to mention Kenya, for example. We have a brand of the name of Enda Athletics, which is an authentic African brand. In Nigeria, Alpha Sports is another authentic Nigerian brand. So we're looking at brands that are authentically African and selling to Africans in Africa, but also across the world with the diaspora.
Thank you very much, Will Jacob from the African Sports and Creative Institute. Thank you very much for your analysis. And meanwhile, South Africa said the UN should deploy what it calls a rapid protection force to intervene in the Israel-Hamas conflict that has so far killed more than 8,000 people. Israel has been stepping up its retaliation for the October 7th deadly attack by militant group Hamas. And more than 200 people were taken hostage during that attack, including 2 Tanzanian students that have been named by the Israeli government. Joshua Loitu Molel and Clemence Felix Tanga were in Israel as part of an agricultural internship program. Tanzania's ambassador to Israel has assured both families the 2 governments were working together to secure their release. Ghana is set to bolster its capacity to deal with the raging terrorist insurgency in West Africa. More than 100 armored vehicles were delivered from the European Union. It's part of a €616 million package to strengthen defense and security of the 4 coastal countries of the Gulf of Guinea. Our West Africa correspondent Justice Baidu reports from Accra.
Ghana has so far been spared the many terror attacks that has been recorded in some of its closest West African neighbors. But with instability within the government in countries like Burkina Faso and Mali and Niger, many analysts have said that it may well be a matter of when and not if that this country comes face to face with the menace.
It is imperative to understand that no single country can confront the terrorist threat on its own.
The European Union Foreign Policy Chief, Joseph Borrell, indicated at the handing over ceremony that the EU's investment would also be targeting job creation for the many of the country's unemployed youth, especially in northern Ghana, where insurgency threats are very likely because of the insecurities in Burkina Faso and also the already existing terror threats within some of Ghana's northern regions. Ghana's military is seen as one of the strongest and most robust in the West African sub-region. This new investment by the European Union is being hailed as a further boost in their capacity to be able to ward off any attacks.
Kenya is gearing up for King Charles III's first visit as a monarch to the Commonwealth nation. During a 4-day visit, King Charles said he will try to learn more about the wrongs people suffered there during colonial times. Some are asking for compensation and justice. Clémence Valère has more on the story.
It's a state visit that is dividing Kenyan public opinion. On the 31st of October, Kenya will be hosting King Charles III for a 4-day visit meant to reinforce British-Kenyan relations. However, the shadow of the UK's colonial past will not be far behind. Charles is expected to tackle the more painful aspects of the nation's shared history. This will include exploring the state of emergency of 1952 to 1960, declared due to the guerrilla campaign against European settlers by Mau Mau fighters.
The first question I would ask him, why did you keep silent when your subjects were killing people, jailing people, detaining people in Kenya, calling them terrorists, while in fact they were not terrorists, they were freedom fighters.
At least 10,000 people were killed during the suppression of the uprising. After years of legal battles, Britain agreed in 2013 to compensate more than 5,000 Kenyans who had suffered abuse during the revolt in a deal worth almost £20 million. Another source of tension, the presence of British soldiers on Kenyan soil. While the army base, located some 200 kilometers from Nairobi, fuels the local economy, it has also been implicated in several controversies in the area. In 2021, a devastating fire broke out during a British military exercise in central Kenya, destroying over 4,800 hectares of land. A Kenyan court ordered the British Army to pay compensation for the blaze. However, according to a recent open letter signed by 7,000 plaintiffs, the victims have yet to receive the compensation.
Thank you for watching this edition of Eye on Africa. Stay with us for more news.